So, okay, your question is about what kind of books Yogi Rama was advising to the people how to read, especially Western authors. Actually, first of all, let me say a few words that, okay, for the Kriya Yoga meditation, and better to say for the Kriya Yoga as the spiritual path, to read books is extremely important. Well, I visited quite many ashrams and in India, and met in my life so many people from different kinds of traditions. And what is interesting that, again, some schools, they say that, okay, no need to read books. Actually, it's just intellectual game, blah, blah, and you have to practice meditation and mantra. But what is the problem is that if we never read books, that's going to be really, in a bad sense, gap in our inner world. Because, okay, if we practice just meditation and just mantra, then we may accumulate more energy, more even possible supernatural power or mystical experiences. But without reading books, we don't know what to do with all that. The meaning of meditation may become clear only if we learn philosophy. Because without philosophy, there's just play with the supernatural stuff, just the game with whatever, energy, mystical experiences. And I saw so many people who are experiencing amazing things, like out-of-body experiences, different visions, but they really don't know what to do with all that. And if we don't know what to do with all that, then it may bring more egoistic, things and thoughts and feelings. And anyway, to read books is very important. But in other extreme is some schools, they say, okay, we have to read books about self-inquiry, about so-called Atma Vichara, how we call it in Sanskrit, so self-inquiry, but we don't need to practice meditation and mantra because this is a kind of illusion, and all that blah blah questions like who is practicing? Yeah, your ego is practicing. You don't need to practice meditation and mantra. So, and finally, it means that complete spiritual path must include sadhana, which is like, okay, you have to practice meditation and mantra every day. And the second part is just philosophy. We have to read books, and because that brings meaning to meditation, because the meaning is self-inquiry, and we're easily forgetting without a proper philosophical foundation. But the aspect number 3 is grace. Actually, that's also very important, because without grace, okay, we can practice for ages, for millions of years, and our progress will be pretty poor. So grace is a third, is extremely important part of the complete spirituality. And what is the source of grace for the Kriya Yoga? Okay, of course, this is Mahatma Babaji, this is Jesus the Christ, this is Krishna, and this is Sai Baba. So, of course, personally, for somebody, it can be somebody else. For example, masters like Moria or Kuthumi, the masters about whom Theosophical Society is speaking about. So, but the source of grace is, you know, in this case, I like to say, like, if we speak about grace, that the real source of grace must be so highly divine global masters that, okay, it's not just guru, it's not just saint, it's not just some mystic, it must be something at least like Sai Baba or Jesus or Mahatma Babaji. This is the real source of grace. Sometimes people ask me, okay, and what about Yogananda? He's great, he's famous, he's extremely important for the Kriya Yoga. And of course, disciples of Yogananda, or better to say, now we can say, like, people who belong to this Yogananda branch of Kriya Yoga, of course, for them, Yogananda is not a human being, it's like divine incarnation, so it's a questionable. I mean, for me, Yogananda is huge, great, genius, amazing, but still it's a human being, very special, but what is my personal feeling? I can be wrong actually, but that anyway, Yogananda was not source of grace, but he was channel of grace. And yeah, by the way, we can read his lectures, his discourses, and he never actually spoke about himself as Lord God himself or divine incarnation. He was speaking about himself as the messenger of the masters, especially Mahatma Babaji. And I think that his own words, his own understanding of his mission is exactly what is the proper one. He was the channel of the grace, and if it is helpful, good to use this. But of course, in our age, when we have Sathya Sai Baba and Prema Sai Baba, and in our heart we can discover Jesus the Christ and Mahatma Babaji and Krishna, and of course Buddha, Shakyamuni, all that level of masters. But you know, what is the problem with, if I can say, if I can call it the problem with the grace? Sometimes people say, okay, we don't need philosophy, we don't need meditation, let us just enjoy this grace. And that's also quite strange, because what sometimes happen in the places like food party or Sathya Sai Baba ashram, people just receiving this grace, but honestly speaking, they don't know how to manage what to do with this grace, what is the purpose of this grace, and they just swim in this grace and sometimes become even crazy about it, and with this grace. And so it's important to practice all three parts of the complete spirituality, because if you take just only one of them, going to be problem. And I saw it so many times. So it must be grace, so it must be philosophy, and so it must be your personal meditation, personal proper right effort. And if we'll come back to the original question about books, actually Yogi Ramaya, he was a traditional guy in all senses, you know. When I met him in 90s, he was like 70, 75 years old, and actually the foundation of his approach to life was like, you know, that time when India was extremely traditional, especially South India. And yeah, modern literature for him, it was Yogananda, autobiography and all that, as far as I remember, 3 basic volumes with lectures. Of course, it was all works written by Sri Aurobindo, and actually Yogi Ramaya told us so many times that, okay, if you take books written by Sri Aurobindo and like, you know, his books plus techniques of Kriya Yoga, that is complete picture of this highest spirituality. And what's happened quite often that in Kriya Yoga tradition they scarcely mention about Sri Aurobindo. They say, okay, Sri Aurobindo is just a guru from another tradition, but it's totally wrong, because Aurobindo was initiated by Ram Gopal Mazumdar, so one of the chief disciples of Lahiri Baba, and Aurobindo never mentioned about Kriya Yoga, never mentioned about his guru, I mean Ram Gopal Mazumdar. But so what? In our tradition we know from Yogi Rama that it was the case. And to understand and to apply philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, you must practice Kriya Yoga. Unfortunately, many Kriya Yoga traditions, they just never mention about Sri Aurobindo. And also, if you'll go one day to Sri Aurobindo Ashram, which is amazing place, one of my most favorite, and it's also South India, very near to Arunachala mountain, very near to Puttaparthi, so it's very comfortable to travel there. And you know what's happened in Aurobindo Ashram? People just read books, and then they try to open their heart and mind to the grace. And really, Aurobindo Ashram is the place of the grace, because his tomb, his Samadhi Mandiram, I mean Aurobindo tomb, is amazing. He's a place of grace. But you know what is lacking is a clear set of techniques. And that's what my feeling is about what's happened in Sri Aurobindo Ashram. Huge grace and huge philosophy, huge books, but no system of techniques. Why it's happened like that, I don't know. Maybe it's a subtle plan, okay, by Mahatma Babaji, that he gave, like, you know, philosophy as a separate school to Sri Aurobindo, and techniques to the Kriya Yoga masters like Lahiri Baba, Yogananda, Yogi Rama. It's a divine lila, what we can say, but the best way is to combine these two things together. And of course, if we'll speak about clarity, and clarity not in a sense easy to read and understand. Clarity, I mean open explanation about top level philosophy. That's Sri Aurobindo. It's not easy to read Sri Aurobindo, but that's the reason why, in this sense, yeah, it's difficult to read stuff. But I mean that he openly, clearly spoke about, wrote about, better to say, top level philosophical understanding. And even Yogananda was okay, sometimes filtering his philosophical teaching, and there are many things about Yogananda was not speaking, but he knew about it. Anyway, and if you wish a purely Western person, okay, Yogananda spent second half of his life in the United States, so he was Indian, but pretty much Western person. Sri Aurobindo, okay, he spent his young age actually in England. All his education was the Oxford kind of education, and Aurobindo and Yogananda both like Indians, but at the same time Westerners. And let me show to you one quite important book, which is, of course, you know, Swami Kriyananda, and this is his commentaries to the Bhagavad Gita according to what he received from his Guru Yogananda. And okay, Swami Kriyananda, he passed away some years ago, and he was perfect Westerner because he was born in the United States in a Christian family. So, and the Kriyananda, Swami Kriyananda, of course, he is the perfect, really, really wonderful channel. Let us call him channel, how Western readers may understand much more authentic the message of Yogananda. So that's what I can say about the meaning of the reading and exactly what kind of books Yogi Rama gave us as like the perfect source. And he himself was not reading books. That was his mission to work with a small bunch of disciples. So, but he was very careful about the importance of reading books, ancient scriptures, and modern spiritual literature.